Now, detonate the reality bomb!
I will build a great, great wall.
Some alien race to come down and threaten us.
Is the singularity near?
The truth is out there.
The military-industrial complex.
The 7 mountains of the influencers of culture.
To be as gods, you know.
Change has come to America.
Catapult of propaganda.
From a secure location on top of the ridge in the heart of the beautiful Missouri Ozarks, this is A View from the Bunker. Now, here's Derek Gilbert.
On October 13th, 1917, something appeared in the skies over Fatima, Portugal. Many who saw it claimed it was miraculous. Was it really? Watch this.
What if what happened in Fatima 101 years ago was much more complex than any of us could have imagined? What if there was a fourth witness hidden away for decades, and through the detective work of researcher Fina Di Armata, this witness was discovered and interviewed? In that interview, the fourth witness described seeing a being with blonde hair floating in midair above the same tree that the apparition would later appear over. What if the so-called angel hair that fell over the crowd is also reported by witnesses who have had close encounters with UFOs today? Then there is the dull silver disc, which flew over the 80,000 people gathered at Fatima, which seemed to create chaos as car windshields exploded, hoods flew open, and gasoline spontaneously combusted. What if there was a picture taken 101 years ago that lay undiscovered in the Fatima archives until one man, Jose Machado, had access to it? What he found may be a smoking gun. Then there are the numerous reports of apparitions and so-called sun miracles. But what are these really? Could they be harbingers of deception? This is Fatima 2, Strange Phenomenon.
Welcome to A View from the Bunker. I'm Derek Gilbert. Whether you're watching us at YouTube, that's the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Derek Gilbert. Please click the little button down there in the corner and subscribe. Or if you're listening at VFTB.net, Spreaker, Stitcher, or wherever fine podcasts are sold, we thank you for joining us today. Our guest went to Portugal to investigate and has now produced 2 video reports on this, which we recommend highly because it relates to a number of deceptions that have been spun out to the public over the last 100 years, and far too many people are falling for it. He's the author of numerous books, including Politics, Prophecy, and the Supernatural, the Nephilim Trilogy, On the Trail of the Nephilim, On the Trail of the Nephilim 2, and others. He is the host of Acceleration Radio, Politics, Prophecy, and the Supernatural Report. And coming today to you from 2 undisclosed locations, we're honored to bring back to the program our friend L.A. Marzulli. L.A., welcome.
Great to be here, Derek. Thanks for having me back on.
Fatima 2, Strange Phenomenon is the new film. The first was Fatima. What exactly happened on October 13th of 1917 that has stirred so much interest over the last 100 years?
Well, the backstory was, these 3 kids, Lucia, Francisco, and Jacinta, very young children. They were completely illiterate. Lucia's 11, Francisco's 9, Jacinta's 7. Very young kids. I mean, really impressionable. There's nothing in their grid, first of all, to deal with the supernatural, number one, and they're completely illiterate. They can't read or write. So they have a very limited scope, a very limited worldview, very limited access to the world, and it's 1917. There were no airplanes in the sky. So the first apparition occurs in May 13th of that year, and from the 6 months out from May to October, more and more people keep coming to Fatima, Irene's Cove, and the numbers begin to swell because something is going on and the word's getting out. So the magistrate, the priest, the bishop, all these people get together and they tell the children, look, go back and ask the lady or whoever this entity is. And by the way, the lady never said, the entity never said it was Mary. When asked, who are you? She just said and communicated telepathically to the children. Mouth never moved. Telepathic communication. She said, I'm from Muscat. That's it. I'm from Muscat. So why would she be so elusive? Anyway, the kids go back in September and say, will you show a sign? And the entity says, yes, there will be a sign on October 13th. Now, no one knew what the sign was going to be. That's the rub. I mean, what sign? About 70 to 80,000 people are assembled in the field of Fatima on October 13th, awaiting the sign. It's been raining all morning. People are soft of the skin. There are pictures that show a sea of umbrellas. And we discovered that the photographer that we actually had access to through the glass plates, through our work with Jose Machado, who went to the Fatima archives and looked at these glass plates, and we'll get into that a little bit later. He took 12 photos of the so-called miracle of the sun. So what happened was, it's been raining all day. All of a sudden, the clouds part, the sun comes out. But then a cloud moves in front of the sun, and out of that comes an object. And that object begins to spin and then fall to the earth, and it does this 3 times. And finally, the object comes down over the crowd, about 100 feet over the heads of the crowd. The object was roughly 40 to 60 feet wide. It was not an airplane. It certainly was not the sun, as we know it. And people's who were sopping wet, their clothes dried, the ground dried. People experienced underneath what we call the flyby, where this object flew over the heads of the crowd. There were burns on the skin. The hoods of automobiles flew open. Cars stopped working. They wouldn't start. Windshields completely exploded. Gasoline spontaneously combusted. This was, in my opinion, and we don't have a lot of time to get into everything, but all the different phenomena that happened within that 12 to 14 minute span of time, known as the miracle of the sun, has been completely swept under the rug. Excuse me. And most people don't, it's not part of the official narrative. This is why the experts that we talked to, and most people were PhDs or master's degrees. I mean, these were highly educated men that came on the record, and women, Frederica Claro Diarmada, Fina Diarmada's daughter. And Fina was the one that really kicked this open. She had access to the 1917 handwritten documents. And what she saw there was a completely different story than the Fatima that we know today. And she wrote 3 books, and of course was ostracized for this. She teamed up with Joaquim Fernandez, who we also interviewed, and we dedicated the second film to Joaquim for his work and the pursuit of the truth. Everything we drew from for both films, Fatima, Harbinger of Deception, and Fatima 2, Strange Phenomenon, came from in 1917 handwritten documents. And what we see there is a completely different Fatima, let's say, from what most people know today. So where did the Roman Catholic Church come down on this? I mean, Portugal, still today, primarily Roman Catholic, and so what was it about this vision that made people assume somehow that they were seeing Mary, the Mother of God? What we were able to ascertain, again, from the handwritten documents, it was Lucia's uncle who said, it must be Mary. In other words, they were arguing about who is this entity. And the uncle of Lucia's uncle said, well, it must be Mary. Who else could it be? And so from there, that spread out. And remember, the worldview of the people back then, probably except for the atheists, is a Catholic worldview, is a Catholic Christian worldview. Okay, I'm just, whatever. But and so it's Mary and Jesus and Joseph. And that's how they're interpreting what's going on. And there is no grid for these people who are seeing this. They had never seen an airplane or any aerial activity at all.
Right, 1917, very early in the age of flight. I mean, you had World War I warplanes, but not much of that was being fought in Portugal. It was mostly in France.
That's to the east, in France and Germany. So most people, I would say over 90% of the people in the field had never seen any type of aerial phenomenon at all. So there's nothing in their grid to deal with the so-called miracle of the sun and this craft, which eyewitnesses describe as a dull silver disc, appears over the crowd. And there's more than one witness that says that. Dr. Almeida Goret states looking up and seeing a dull silver disc. So what happened at Fatima, and this is why we really get into it in Fatima 2, was, in my opinion, a UFO event, a harbinger of deception that had all sorts of strange phenomena within that harbinger of deception, which then, and at the end of the film, I created a composite of so-called sun miracles and so-called apparitions happening in the present day, happening in modernity. And, we've shown this at conferences now, since the film has been released, and people just sit there with their jaw on the ground. I mean, people ooh and ah, and like when it's over, I look out in the audience and everyone is stunned. They're shocked.
Right.
Well, they've never seen this. And this is why the film is so relevant. And I can't say that enough. Look, if you get the film, and we're selling Fatima 1, Fatima 2, plus Jose Machado's book, Miracle of a Sun, which shows the glass plate and the object, which is intrinsic in the glass plate, hovering over the field, which I think is a UFO. Mm-hmm. It's a round circular object in the glass plates. We're selling all these things, plus a bonus DVD, which is me speaking at Prophecy Watchers last year, talking about Fatima. So all that for $39. Hold a Fatima party. Bring all your friends over and show it to them. Show both films, because what happened in antiquity is repeating itself in modernity. And that's why the film is relevant. And these so-called sun miracles and apparition sites are happening all over the globe right now.
Yeah, we saw this at the Hear the Watchman conference in Dallas, because we were there while you showed the clips of these phenomena taking place, present day. And, I stay on top of this because it's my job. That's what I do for Skywatch TV. Try to keep on top of these things and report on these things and try to analyze them through a Christian lens. But, a lot of the things that come up there, YouTube user 12345 found something on Google Maps in Antarctica. It's like, please, again. But these things that you brought to the conference and showed to the audience there, what are these phenomena, and why aren't we hearing more about them? How do you process them?
Well, this is why I call it a harbinger of deception. Satan comes with all signs and lying wonders. This is you'll see that clip after clip after clip, everyone's embracing it. Everyone's just going, "Oh, something supernatural's happening. It must be from God." No one's testing the spirits. No one's rebuking first and asking questions later. Right, no one's doing that. One of the there's two which really impacted me. One is in Knock Island, and you hear this woman going, it's coming down on me, oh, and she's just in hysterics. And then the other one takes place in Nigeria, and this one is freaky because this is an apparition. The one where it's coming down, the sun, but it's not the sun, is moving, and it's coming down on the crowd. And so the woman is completely overwhelmed. The one in Nigeria, it's like there's a rent in the space-time fabric, for lack of a better word. I don't know what's going on. Something opens up. It's all brilliant. It's brilliantly lit up. And there's a figure which kind of looks like Jesus. I mean, really cool. It kind of, it's kind of like almost manifesting. And you hear this guy go, oh, I mean, people are totally freaked out. Well, okay, that's a nice power trick. Fool me once, shame on you, right? Mm-hmm. And the bottom line is no one is testing the spirits. So the apparition, let's say over the Coptic Church in Egypt, which was 2009, it shows this it's an amorphous blob of light, and it kind of has a blue thing which goes down like this, which people immediately, oh, it's Mary. Excuse me, it's an amorphous blob of light. That's what it is. And it's holding what seems to be a smaller blob of light in its arms, which is supposed to be the baby Jesus. Well, let me ask, and I'm not, with all due respect, people can believe what they want to believe, and I'm not coming down on people's belief systems. We serve a risen Savior who has the imprint of the nails in his palms and the imprint of a spear in his side. We serve, and probably the scourging marks on his body. We serve a risen Savior, King of Kings, Lord of Lords, not some little baby in his mother's arms anymore. So for me, it's absolutely blasphemous to hold the King of Kings in that imagery. It's blasphemous. It demeans his lordship and his kingship. And that's what this apparition in 2009. And what's incredible, Derek, this apparition went on for more than a week. And the mayor of the town got so freaked out, he had all the power shut down to make sure it wasn't a hoax. Mm-hmm. And when you watch the film, this thing is like, there they are. It's like the mother and child, then there's another amorphous blob of light, which people say, oh, it's Joseph. And then there's a fourth one, which is like the angel. They're just blobs of light. That's all they are. Amorphous blobs of light. And how you get the holy family out of that is beyond me. But Muslims and Christians are gathered together clapping, celebrating this thing, totally accepting it. And this is in the film. And it's just like, you know, when people, it's one thing to talk about Fatima, and that's why I bring it in the very last part of the presentation. It's also the last part of the film, one of the last things in the film. And it just leaves people with their jaw on the ground because, you know, most people are going, well, why do I need to know about Fatima? You know, it's like, it's 100 years ago. Nobody cares, yada, yada, yada. You better wake up, folks, and you better care, because what happened at Fatima was, in my opinion, a harbinger of deception, a precursor to what is going on right now. And that's why it's so relevant.
Yeah.
I can't stress that enough.
Catholic News Agency, May 14th, 2013, Lisbon, Portugal. At the Holy Father's personal request, Cardinal Jose Polycarp, the Patriarch of Lisbon, consecrated the pontificate of Pope Francis to Our Lady of Fatima on her feast day. He consecrated his pontificate to an apparition. What? Why is the Roman Catholic Church endorse this?
It's, you know, it's really beyond me. They're so steeped in this. It's just mind blowing. In fact, when you talk to advocates of Fatima, they don't want to hear the facts. It's like, this is what happened. Mary appeared. There's 3 secrets. Well, again, they don't understand because they've never done the research. Lucia was the only one to survive, of the 3 children, was the only child to survive into adulthood. The others, Francisco and Jacinta, died in the flu epidemic. And they died very young. They were canonized recently. And Lucia, when she was 18, okay, so she's 11 when she sees it. It's 7 years later. Now she's 18. She's taken into a Jesuit monastery, given a vow of silence, and she's cloistered. So in 1928, she begins to write down, okay, what happened, and begins to tell, this is where the secrets come from. 1928, 11 years later. There's nothing about the 3rd secret of Fatima, or even Russia. Consecrate, you know, Russia to my sacred heart. And that is a loaded phrase, because why does Mary all of a sudden have a sacred heart? See, all this is dressed up in Mariology, which of course as evangelicals we reject. I love Mary. I think, you know, she's the God bearer.
Yeah.
I have the greatest and highest respect for her, but she's not the co-redemptrix, and she's not appearing on the planet. Right. This is something else. And what we discovered, and you weighed in on this in the film along with Dr. Michael Lake and Carl Teichert, and this was very difficult for me to edit as a director, extremely difficult, because I had all this information and how to make it coherent and not boring. So it's not like, you know, pedantic and like a lecture at a college or something, you know. So it took probably over a month and I went over it and over it and over it and over it. And of course, you know, you're looking at it and go, well, that's easy, LA. But when I have this footage, and you 3 guys came in and weighed in on the ancient goddess worship, which permeated Portugal before the Christian era.
Yeah.
And that's what we discovered. And that ancient pagan goddess, that principality, that cosmocrator, has never been deposed, in my opinion. So what happened in antiquity has just been dressed up in, you know, a different form, but it's the same thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, that was one of the interesting things things I found most interesting about this. You know, obviously the UFO deception is something that we've been aware of for some time, and you were very instrumental in helping me to realize that there was more to this than just, hey, cool, aliens from Zeta Reticuli have somehow figured out how to cross the, you know, the vastness of space. But realizing that that this is a modern take on something that was taken for granted in antiquity. I hadn't realized until I started doing the research for the book I'm working on right now that it was assumed in the world of the patriarchs, the ancient Near East, which was dominated by the culture of the people group called the Amorites. They set the stage for everything that happened from the time of Abraham through the time of Jesus, pretty much. It was assumed that the dead lived on and influenced the world of the living. And that if you didn't do proper obeisance, if you didn't summon your ancestors through rituals every month and twice a month for the kings, because they were twice as powerful, I guess, you had real problems with these. It was fascinating to realize that this cult of the dead was transmitted from the Amorites in what we would today consider Syria and Iraq, Canaan, Israel, Lebanon, from east to west through what is now Turkey to the Greeks, and became part of the cult of heroes of the Greeks. Theseus, Perseus, Hercules, or Heracles to the Greeks. That was actually where the Roman Catholic Church got the idea to say, the spirits of the dead, okay, yeah, the spirits of these Nephilim, okay, that's demons. But Augustine said, the spirits of the righteous who died in Christ become saints. They're sort of like the anti-demons. And that's where the Roman Catholic doctrine of veneration of saints and
right.
Basically originated. Right. So this is
400 years after the event, and that's the problem. It all becomes dressed up in really mythos in a way.
Exactly. So the whole practice of canonizing saints and decreeing, okay, their spirits can still but they're not like demons. They're like the other. That all came out of this ancient world, going back 2,000, 3,000 years before Jesus, the world of Abraham and even earlier. So, as you say, antiquity is being repeated here in modernity. It's just dressed up in a different form, and many well-meaning brothers and sisters around the world are being deceived by this. And again, this goddess worship, the research. Now, again, I had the small piece of the puzzle, whatever, and I was honored to be a part of the project. Carl Teichrim and Dr. Michael Lake have been doing this a lot longer than I have. When you put all the stuff together that we brought, plus the research you got on the ground in Portugal, what conclusions did you draw about the nature of this spirit?
Well, what was interesting is, and we talked about this in Fatima 1, we kind of recapitulated in Fatima 2, there was a group of psychics that got together. I mean, this is how strange this whole thing really is. And how here's modern day Fatima. Oh, it's the Virgin Mary appeared to these kids, and you start peeling back the layers, and what you find there is like, oh my gosh. When we got there, and I knew about this because I read the books before I got there, but then we went to a spiritualist, this huge compound where the same from 1917, this group of spiritualists had been continued to meet. And, new spiritualists come in and they learn the medium techniques. And so there was this huge building with all these pictures and signs. And what they had done is they had made a replica, which is in the film, a clay replica of the psychics. There's about 7 or 8 of them that gathered together around a table. They went into their trance, and one of them was writing, automatic writing from right to left on a piece of paper, okay, a message. And the message basically said something wondrous is going to happen in Portugal on May 13th this year. And they published it in O Século, which is the major newspaper.
Of course, that's your feast day, right?
They published it verbatim. And the message was signed left to right, the way you would normally sign your name. Stella Matutina, the bright morning star. That's how it was signed. And this is like months before the May 13th apparition. And what we discovered in another apparition site, which is in Fatima 2, was an entity appeared to another shepherd and basically said, I'm Stella Matutina. I'm the bright morning star. And we all know who the bright morning star is, especially when it comes from automatic writing, which is an occult technique which brings in the demonic and uses your hand, and it was written right to left, so the only way you could see it was holding up to a mirror.
Right.
It's just mind-boggling stuff, and all that what we just talked about is completely scrubbed clean, redacted from the official record about Fatima. So people don't even know that took place. Stella Matutina. Unbelievable.
Of course, in Isaiah 14. He's the rebel from Eden is referred to as light-bringer, son of the morning star, Hillel ben Shachar. But in the ancient Near East, the Amorites, the Canaanites, on to the Greeks, the ancient world worshipped Ishtar, Inanna, as the planet Venus, which is the evening star, but also the morning star. So, the secrets that came out of the communication from Fatima. I mean, first of all, what is your view of what was actually communicated, how it was communicated? And the second question, I've got a bad habit of asking multiple questions and claiming it's one question. Is this spirit still communicating today?
The spirit, when you look at what's going on in Medjugorje, one of the contactees gets messages almost daily. I mean, this is, you go back into the biblical narrative, and God just doesn't move this way. I mean, it's just, this is like the Oracle of Delphi, a modern Oracle of Delphi. There's a spirit that's a familiar spirit, which this woman is in contact to, that's giving messages on a daily basis. I find that very disturbing, very alarming, as well as the so-called sun miracle at Medjugorje. The secrets are not in the 1917 records. They're not there. And, the whole thing about the conversion of Russia's to the Sacred Heart, the reason why this is going on in 1928, the communists are taking over the world. And the Catholic Church is absolutely terrified of this. So in my opinion, there's a construct. And you'll notice that the third secret was never released. So, I mean, this whole thing is a confabulation. It's manufactured. Because when you go back to the 1917 records, and I defy anyone, don't go I can't go 1928. I'm not going to go to the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever. 1917. That's right at the event. This is what's going on. In fact, the parish priest, up to the very end, basically believed the whole thing was demonic. And he was ostracized because how can you possibly say it's demonic? Look at this, the miracle of the sun. People were healed. Something that's really interesting that just came across my desk last week. This woman was in Conyers, Georgia, when the apparition was happening in Conyers, Georgia. Conyers, Georgia is, there's a gateway, there's a portal there, there's a lot of occult activity. So on this woman's farm, Miracle of the Sun, I think ABC did a whole special on it, and no discernment at all. Thousands of people were coming there watching this thing. So this woman was there, and with her fiance standing in the field looking up at the so-called Miracle of the Sun. This is what's amazing. They're standing right next to each other. They're not like 100 yards apart. They're right next to each other, okay, inches apart. She looks up and she sees an apparition. He looks up, he sees a UFO. How is that possible? And that was, when I heard that, never heard that before. MUFON has, when they covered it, Mutual UFO Network reported that. But see, I've never heard about that till she came forward. So apparently, just like at Fatima, the same thing. People saw different things. I looked up and saw a dull silver disc. Somebody else saw just this pulsing light. It's all over the map. And that's what's alarming about it, Derek. Certain people see certain things, like even within the children were giving something to eat and drink. Most people don't know about this. And I'm not trying to be condescending. It's just that we did the research. That's why we made the film. So Lucia, Francisco, and Jacinta, Lucia and Jacinta were giving something from the entity to eat and drink. And they did. They ate and drank. But Francisco only ate, did not drink. So Francisco could see her, but never heard her telepathically. Lucia and Jacinta could see her and then heard her voice to skull. It wasn't this. It was voice to skull. And then, of course, we discovered, talk about it in the film, the fourth witness, who was Carolina Carriera, who went completely off the record, completely redacted. Her testimony was thrown under the bus, never to see the light of day until Fina de Armada got access to the 1917 records in the sanctuary and realized, oh my gosh, there's a fourth seer. And she sought the woman out, and she was alive, very old. And we talk about that in the film, and what this woman saw was a blonde-haired, which is completely out of context in Portugal. Completely bizarre, in a white frock, and she couldn't tell, it was a child. She couldn't tell whether it was a boy or a girl, sort of this androgynous being, long blonde hair, And again, voice to skull communication. Red flag 1, voice to skull communication. Red flag 2, this woman, Carolina, is tending the sheep, and she looks over at the sheep, and the sheep are paralyzed. Red flag 3, when she goes back to look at this entity, it's no longer on the ground, it's floating above the same tree that the apparition would later appear to Lucia, Francisco, and Jacinta. This is bizarre, absolutely bizarre. But I think the smoking gun for me was and is Jose Machado's work. First of all, he's a professor of semiotics. And what that is, he teaches the study of photographs and film. That's what he does.
Symbols.
So
the meaning of symbols, basically. Yeah.
Symbols. And so he got access to the sanctuary at Fatima. And he went in and he handled the glass plates, the original glass plates that Joshua Benoliel, the Jewish photographer, took. He took 12 photographs. So it's not just one. And I always wondered, man, there had to have been somebody, because the phenomenon went on for 12 to 14 minutes. So Joshua Benoliel, he's got pictures. Jose Machado said there are problems with 4 of the glass plates. And what he means by that, there are objects that are intrinsic in the glass plates, that are part of the glass plates. They're not smudges. They're not chemical burns. They're not, a chip in the glass. They're in the glass plate negative. They are round, circular orbs. They are round objects. They're not the sun, which shouldn't be there. And the one that we show in the film, the one we had access to, by the way, we published this book, and we're proud of that. It's one of the first offerings other than the DNA stuff that we did under Spiral of Life, my publishing company. It's a small little book, but it's just incredible. And what this shows, there's an object. Okay, let me use a prop. There's an object that hovers over the field like this. Okay, it's a round object. In fact, let me get a better prop here. It's a round circular object hovering over the field, and right underneath it is the apparition, the tree where the apparition site, the arch of the apparition were the children. And to the right of the field, there's all this smoke, and the smoke billows up and it makes a right angle left turn to where the object is. It's clearly a round object. It's taken well. I mean, the camera is set up well in the distance, so it's a very small object, but it's there, and it shouldn't be there. And what we show in the film is a UFO from 1957, and there's definitely a similarity between the two. So you got 1957, a UFO taking over California with a black and white camera, and here you go, 1917, and there's definitely a similarity. And this is problematic. It's not the sun. The sun is a completely different place. It's not the sun. There's an object, a round circular object, and it goes back into what the witnesses saw. I looked up and saw a dull silver disc, and we think it's a smoking gun. That picture has never been published before, ever. It's never been published, and we've got it. So it's a first.
Again, for people who've not looked into this incident in Fatima, how many people were present on October 17th or 13th rather of 1917?
Between 70,000 and 80,000
so
people.
This is not something where you just had 3 kids making up a story, because you had 70,000, 80,000 witnesses.
And again, there's nothing in anybody's grid to process the supernatural. There's nothing. They've never been trained to rebuke first, ask questions later. They're just accepting, and people thought it was the end of the world. People were terrified.
Well, the
end of the world.
But you can understand why they would, looking back at what was going on around them. World War I was in the middle, was still tearing Europe apart. 18 million dead during World War I, 23 million wounded. And then the following year, as you mentioned, 2 of the 3 witnesses' children were victims of the Spanish flu that began spreading in the fall of 1918. My grandfather was deployed to France in World War I, and he was sending back letters. I've got copies that he sent back to my great-grandmother, and he signed every one. "I am feeling fine and in the best of health, your loving son, Eskel." It's like, feeling fine in the best, not your loving son. I'm feeling fine in the... Then I realized they were all dated September, October, November 1918, when 20 to 50 million people were dying because of the Spanish flu. But in 1917, that hadn't hit yet, but still, millions of dead. I mean, we, in our modern 24-hour news cycles on cable news, and with the internet reporting everything in almost real time, when a tragic event takes place, like, for example, the incident in Toronto last week with the fellow drives the van down the street. 10 people get killed. Horrible, horrible tragedy. But it's 10 people. Imagine now, scale that up by a factor of 1,000 or 10,000, and that's the numbers of people that were dying on a monthly basis along the front in France in during the World War I. So people must have felt as though the world was literally coming to an end, and they didn't have a worldview to process it. In fact, the dominant worldview at the time among Christians worldwide, not just the Roman Catholic Church, was amillennialism. The world's just going to get better and better until Jesus comes back, and then suddenly there's this war that's killing millions of people around the world. That would shake your faith. But it's on the church, it's on the pastors and teachers, and the Roman Catholic Church holds the biggest responsibility here because it's got more members than any other Christian. And okay, we'll put it in air quotes for some, but nominally Christian denomination in the world. They should have taught their people better. They should be teaching people better now, because 100 years later, we still have a pope sitting in the Vatican who's consecrated his entire papacy to this particular event.
And I find that alarming. Whether or not he's ever done the real investigation, I don't know. It'd be great to sit down and talk with him. But I mean, I've talked to people that really believe in Fatima, and when you you say, well, what about this? What about the fourth witness? What about the cars? The windshields exploding? All of these things. What about the white fibers? They call them rose petals. They're not rose petals. They were white fibers that disappeared. This is analogous to modern day UFO events.
Right.
When UFOs appear, there's this stuff called angel hair, erroneously named, but it falls to the ground, and it coincides with modern day UFO events. So,
too bad it's not gold dust. Then we know it'd be angels.
And that's the thing. The Protestants right now, there's with all due respect to this guy running around with this Bible in a vat that leaks oil, apparently.
Yeah.
And has anyone? It's just really simple. Let's empty the barrel out, and then let's sit here with a camera. We'll take witnesses coming in an hour shifts. We'll all look at this thing, and we'll see if it's leaking oil. And if it does leak oil, then we need to see and test the spirits.
Right.
Why would God allow something like this to happen?
Right.
And I'm a firm believer in the supernatural.
Amen. Yes, absolutely.
I believe in all that. But when I see stuff like this, or bleeding statues, or blobs of light over Coptic churches, not buying it.
Yeah. L.A., where do people find how do they get a copy of not just Fatima 2, Strange Phenomena, the first movie as well? Where do people go to take advantage of that special offer?
The best thing to do is to get the package for $39. $39. You basically save $10. You get Fatima 1, Harbinger of Deception, Fatima 2, Strange Phenomenon, and then, of course, Jose Machado's book, which is just incredible because you'll see the actual picture yourself, and he weighs in on it as a professor of semiotics, which is just amazing in my opinion. And then, of course, the bonus DVD we throw in is my lecture at Fatima 1 at Prophecy Watchers. You can go to thewatchmanchronicles.com, Watchman singular, M-A-N, thewatchmanchronicles.com. That's the overarching title of our film series. Or you can go to lamarzulli.net, lamarzulli.net. And, again, spend the money and then charge your friends $2 a head to come in and watch it with you. And because we're trying to get the word out, folks. I mean, I watched Ancient Aliens last night. And I mean, I'm just sitting there going, this could have come right out of my presentation at Hear the Watchman, or last week at Coach David Daubenmire's. I'm just sitting there. They know. They're talking about on Ancient Aliens that disclosure is coming. I mean, that's what the whole show last night was on. Mm-hmm. And I'm just sitting there just dumbfounded, realizing that the church, for the most part, is completely asleep,
right,
and is not engaged. And Ancient Aliens, they dominate the narrative. We don't.
Yeah.
So that's why films like Gary Bates and Joe Jordan's film is important.
Right.
I mean, I disagree with some of their conclusions, but hallelujah, man. They got that film out, and, thousands of people saw it. I think it's great. And our film on the whole UFO topic, UFOs are real, burgeoning and not going away. It's an hour and 37 minutes long, and we had all these witnesses in their own words come on film. The church needs to understand that this is not something, it's not going to concern me. It's going to concern you.
Right.
And it already is, because Fox News, and you and I talked about this, your presentation showed it too. They're releasing stuff. They're showing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Time to wake up, folks.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's why Josh and I wrote the book. It's not harmless diversion. It is coming straight out of the occult, and we show it in the book where it comes right from Blavatsky and Crowley straight through to Chariots of the Gods.
Bingo.
It's just as at Fatima, it's repackaged ancient paganism being dressed up for a modern audience and given a scientific veneer. The UFO phenomenon the same way. LAMarzulli.net is the website. We will see you in August on Long Island. Looking forward to the tour of Montauk, and you will be taking a tour group to Israel right after we leave. So hopefully we'll leave some sites there for you.
Hopefully the World War III won't break out, and the way it's looking now, it's like anything's possible.
Yeah, amen. Well, we figured we're going to be there on the 70th anniversary of Israel's independence, but if you're going to going from Jerusalem is about as good a place as you can pick on this earth, so we're all right.
Amen.
Ellie, honored to talk to you again, my friend. We'll see you again soon.
My honor, too. Thanks, Derek. Appreciate it.
L.A. Marzulli's website is lamarzulli.net, where you'll find links to take advantage of that special offer on Fatima 2, Strange Phenomenon, packaged together with the first film, Fatima, Miracle of the Sun, and the book. Again, you'll find that at lamarzulli.net. Check the show notes at vftb.net or below this video if you're watching at youtube.com/Derek Gilbert. And thank you for subscribing, sharing this with your friends. As we've told you, the next couple of weeks, we will be away. We will try to update you as we can through the YouTube channel, also through Skywatch TV as to what we're doing in Israel and Rome and Sardinia as well, as we follow the tour of Israel with Dr. Michael Heiser with the True Legends Tour hosted by Steve Quayle and Timothy Alberino. Really looking forward to it because of the research that has gone into the book, and the sites that keep popping up in the research just happen to fall along the route of the tours. It's amazing how God sort of opened this door to make this happen. So hopefully our little road kit will produce video of quality enough that we can share some of this with you, not only through the internet, but also in some sort of a DVD form later, but we'll see. We'll do the best we can. Not a professional videographer. So we'll see how we can do. But if we are not keeping to a regular schedule the next few weeks, that's the reason why we're going to be on the road and playing tourist for the next few weeks. Got to tell you, Sharon's new book, it is out and available through Amazon right now. The copies for Skywatch TV's inventory, and of course we'll package this together at skywatchtvstore.com for, again, to make it worth your while to shop there, because we'll, like currently right now, for the first 3 books, plus Dr. Heiser's 2 novels, The Facade and the Portent, you'd get Sharon's Blood Lies, Blood Rights, and The Blood is the Life. The first 3 novels in the Red Wing saga, plus Mike's 2 novels, 5 novels, brand new, for a donation to the Skywatch TV store of $40. That's $8 a novel, less than half price. There will probably be something similar to that coming for the new book, Book 4 of the Red Wing saga, Realms of Stone, which is just out, available on Kindle already, available through Amazon. If you can't wait for a hard copy, you can go there and order the book, and we thank you for all the people who have already done so. I'm about 18 chapters in as of this recording. By the time you see this, I will have finished the book, I'm sure, because it is engrossing. And as a man reading fiction written by female authors, a lot of times, well, let's be stereotypical here, not enough explosions and car chases and gunfire and stuff. But she draws real flesh and blood characters that you grow to care about over the story. Yes, I know, I'm biased, okay? Sue me. But it's true. It is true. Join the Red Wing Saga group at Facebook. She's got a group set aside now where people can engage and share what they like about the books, suggestions for who they would cast in certain roles, things like that. And she also releases to the group on Facebook little sneak peeks at what is coming. Like, you might get a chance to read the preview or the prologue for a forthcoming book before anyone else gets to see the book. That's at facebook.com. Look for the Red Wing Saga group. Sharon is usually posting it, or you can send Sharon or me a note through Facebook and get added to the group. And it's a wonderful story teaching supernatural truth. And I couldn't be more proud of seeing this story come to life, because she's been talking about this since we met 20 years ago. And book 5 now we get to look forward to later this year. Also later this year, get to look forward to the Hear the Watchman conference coming to Long Island, Ronkonkoma, New York. L.A. Marzulli be one of the featured speakers there, along with Henry Groover, a prayer warrior. Rabbi Zev Parat, who we will see while we're in, if all goes well, that is, while we're in Israel in just a couple of weeks. Pastor Carl Gallups, Pastor Casper McLeod, Pastor Paul Begley, Dr. Michael Lake, and more. I'll be honored to serve as the Master of Ceremonies and speaking about the subject of my new novel, my new book. Don't have a new novel in the works. Too busy writing nonfiction these days, but the new book should be out on or about the time of the Hear the Watchman conference on Long Island. For information and registration, log on to hearthewatchmen.com. That's hearthewatchmen.com. In September 14th through the 16th, Transhumanism and the Hybrid Age. That's the theme of the True Legends Conference in Branson at the Mansion Theater. Once again, 3,000 seats. When those are reserved, there will be no addition. There is no standing room only. Fire Marshal in Branson takes his job very seriously, and so we have to be very careful about how many we allow into the theater. Last year, there were people who wanted to go and couldn't because they thought, well, we can wait until a couple of weeks before the conference. We're not even out of April yet, and we've already got about 2/3 of the theater filled. So if you're thinking that you'd like to learn more about the transhumanist movement and why it is important to pay attention to it as a Christian, plus a chance to see on stage Steve Quayle, Tom Horn, Sharon K. Gilbert, Timothy Alberino, as well as Richard Dolan, famed ufologist, who sees how the transhumanist movement is affecting the nature of humanity. Gen6.com is the place to go for information and registration. Again, Gen6.com for the True Legends Conference, September 14th through the 16th in Branson. And then the East Coast Prophecy Conference, October 18th through the 20th, Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. That is courtesy of our friends at Southwest Radio Ministries, Dr. Bob Glaze and Dr. Larry Spargimino. I will be one of the speakers at that conference, along with Tom Horn. Stephen Strang, publisher of Charisma Magazine and the author of God and Donald Trump. That is October 18th through the 20th. The Wyndham Gettysburg in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, a place I've wanted to see a long time. And looking forward to traveling back to the East Coast. Well, I know Gettysburg's not on the coast. I lived for a while in Philadelphia. I do have a sense of the size of the state of Pennsylvania, so I know we're not exactly, but it's closer than the Ozarks, so we're getting there. Anyway, for information and registration for the East Coast Prophecy Conference, swrc.com is the website, swrc.com. Please check out the Gilbert House Fellowship. That is our weekly online Bible study. Sharon and I record that every Sunday and upload it about midday Sunday. We're in the book of Ezekiel right now. We will be taking a few weeks off as we travel, but you can catch up with the archives. We also have a free mobile app for the fellowship now. So if you've got an Android device or an iOS device, you can download the free mobile app and catch up with the studies there. The website is gilberthouse.org. That's gilberthouse.org. If you get a spare minute, please, at iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, or wherever fine podcasts are sold, please give us a review. Give us a thumbs up at Facebook. That's facebook.com/view from the bunker. And remember, we're a production of Gilbert House and released under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 International License. The opening theme is by Kevin MacLeod. His website, incompetech.com. Our announcer, DC Good. We wrestle not against flesh and blood. I'm Derek Gilbert, and this is A View from the Bunker.